Hey there, BookTube. Noah. Everyone who reads must converse. Today I want to do kind of maybe a windy one, a rambly one in a way. It might not be too long, but I do think that I'm just going to go around a topic and it will serve to kind of locate my perspective and my thoughts concerning literature and concerning how I view it. How I see literature in a modern way, what literature is for, and what it's capable of, and all this kind of thing. And I will start this off by saying that I'm no authority in any kind of way. I'm just a reader, but I am a very critical reader, and I love thinking about books, and I love thinking about literature and getting into uh, specific works, but also where literature is kind of going. This discussion is prompted by three different things. One is a read where I've read this book multiple times now because it's fantastic. It is Too Loud a Solitude by Harabal. This is a very powerful, short, slim work and very, very smart in the way that it does what it does. I will put out some content on this very soon. I have reread it. I'm in the middle of a third reading right now, and this kind of thing is just a mind blow. And Harabal wrote this in let's see, I want to say 1976. So 70s, right? Mid 70s is when it was first published. And then we have Machado de Assis, the posthumous memoirs of Cubas. This was written like 1880. This is a long, long time ago, comparatively speaking, right? 100 years before. And in this book is a question of meta. The term meta. And anytime meta is used to describe something, it's most of the time to describe something that is unique or there's a degree of novelty to the work. It's new, it's fresh, it feels fresh. And what is said in that intro or preface there where it comes up is that meta is not only something that's not new, it's actually present in some of the oldest literature that we have. Don Quixote, for example, in part two of Don Quixote, they they realized that they were characters in part one. There's this kind of knowledge by the by the characters that they are characters in that meta way. But then also Greek plays. There's Greek plays that are very self-aware and aware of the audience as well as the characters as characters. And then a question of what is postmodernism? This is a question that I think has, very little merit to even be asked, because when terms like that are specific for a certain field drop down to common discussion, of course they lose their meaning. This happens all the time in science. This is why there's no reason to debate a scientific idea with some kind of armchair scientist that's just somebody who is basically a believer of scientific materialism that doesn't doesn't understand mathematics in a deep way, doesn't understand science in a deep way, but just grabs hold of it as a tenet. And so this kind of thing is postmodernism has been grabbed hold to by people to describe things that they've read when they've actually maybe read very few postmodernist works. And even people that have read a lot of what is termed postmodernism can't locate what it is about the work that makes it postmodern. And like I said, I'm not necessarily like an authority, but I will say that postmodern, it would not exist without modernism, without the modernist movement, which is, characterized by our boy Joyce and Virginia Woolf and a host of others, right? And this kind of thing is just it doesn't live, like it doesn't have any existence without referring to that literary movement, which is modernism, modernist writing. So unless you're referring to modernist writing and what that does, postmodernist doesn't really have any definition, right? Now, what it really means in now, today's writing, I think has it doesn't have a good place because we've moved, as a society, like an art loving, literature loving society, even past any kind of ideas that were being explored when postmodernism was, the thing. And we'll get to that kind of thing. We'll get to it a little bit. And I just want to say again that this is completely my thoughts and my whole thing, referring to literature and looking at what writers do, what authors do, and what the reader experiences and what that means to me. You know what I mean? Not anybody else. And I would love to hear anybody else's thoughts, whether they, can relate and say, yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying there. I feel similar or the same in this kind of way or that kind of way. Or, hey, I don't know what you're talking about. To me, it's a completely different kind of experience when I come into contact with this or that and that kind of thing. Because it is. It is that. The most genius writers know that there's always this spectrum of experience that's going to be had when reading their stuff anyways, right? So what is it that just to go at it first, because there's this kind of thing where postmodernism is used to describe complex works, just complex works, big works, maximalist fiction. And is that fair? It's not a great term to use for that if there's not any exactly, postmodernist elements. So what is modernism? Well, the biggest and most complex modernist works is like James Joyce, Ulysses, Finnegan's Wake, things like that. And as far as I can tell, like what is it that Joyce was doing? He was bringing himself completely bare into his writing, and not just himself, but all of his experience of being a human being. And James Joyce was a lover of someone who I love as well, who is William Blake. William Blake did the same thing. So I think that in a big way and in an undeniable way, Joyce was doing what William Blake did, which is William Blake, and this is 1800s, in late 1700s, early 1800s. That's when Blake was doing what he did. And he married his inner life with his outer experience of the world. The places, London, the people that he came in contact with, all become part of his writing and his mythos, his city, what the decisions that were being made in the world at large, becomes part of his mythos, his what he's creating, because it can't be any other way. And William Blake is a romantic, okay? And there is analog between what Blake did and what James Joyce did in Ulysses and in Finnegan's Wake. Big time similarities, almost. Almost, it would be an amazing exploration. Maybe I'll do something like go down this stream of writing, because there is too much of, Joyce actively knowing that what he had to do in order to be a giant the way that he was and be, he was a genius. is to do what William Blake did, and he does that. He does it consciously and with an overwhelming amount of complexity. And there's a modernist. So then, even with this kind of, there's so much similarities with what is actually that the authors did. They're two different realms of writing because they're I don't see places where they're compared, but there is a lot of comparisons to be made. There should be comparisons being made. It is in the same stream. And another one that is a completely postmodern work, or even you know postmodern, something that's even another step beyond, more than way beyond Ulysses, but even more so to where, what kind of word do you use? You know what I mean? I'm not trying to defend the term postmodern here, but I'm trying to say that there is a reason when you use it. And it's Alan Moore's Jerusalem. Now, by the title, you know that there is direct kind of relation, a stream between Alan Moore's Jerusalem and William Blake's Jerusalem, right? There's no question there, simply because Alan Moore gives it to us himself. But the whole first part of Alan Moore's Jerusalem, part one, The Burrows, which is the first third of the novel, is him doing what James Joyce did in Ulysses with his city, Northampton. So he does exactly what, not exactly, but he does what James Joyce does with Ulysses in the first part of Jerusalem there. And then he proceeds to bring forth the imagination, his own inner workings, in such a way that it is completely mind-blowing and can only be his personal thing. He's bringing his personal self in a completely bare way, the way that Blake did, the way that Joyce did, and then he has to do it his own way because he is his own person. Sorry about that. The third part of Jerusalem does another thing that Ulysses kind of did, where Alan Moore uses many different literary devices, modes of literary storytelling: a play, a poem, a movie, a noir, and all different kinds of things like that, and tells a chapter from each style, the kind of the way that Ulysses has its structure, right? So there's similarities all through, but the main thing is that the author, the genius author, all three of these are complete geniuses and amazing, and some of my favorite writing of all time, is that they are bringing themselves to bear on their art in a completely overwhelmingly generous and indescribable kind of way. It is very, very awesome and totally mind blowing. I mean, it's mind blowing for sure. So another few that I wanted to bring up that may or may not be postmodern, and why. Why would it be postmodern? What is it doing that is doing something different than everything else? Well, there is House of Leaves by Mark Danielewski. This book is a wild ride, and it's so fun. And I do believe that it takes a step forward, that what it did is it took a step forward from literature, the way that it was before that. And what it does, how it does it, is a couple of different ways. First, it brings a lot of different kind of ways of presenting literature or a text to the reader um, all through it. There is a straightforward story. There is a story being told to you by a narrator. There is um, footnotes from another character that is talking directly to the reader. There is a level of a very expansive level of literary criticism in the book, critiquing what it is that the House of Leaves is about. So there's all these different kind of nestings, but it's almost like not nested necessarily. They're just from different angles approaching the text. Some of them nested, some of them not, right? But it is completely awesome. It's an amazing work that does take it to a little bit of a different level, maybe a lot of a different level, right? But what does take it completely a lot to a different level is America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots, a Diagnostic, right here. This book is completely mind blowing. There is every kind of way of exploring meta narrative and reader, author reader dichotomy, and also mixed media, because this book is actually illustrated with and with notes and with some literary criticism written into it as well. And it is meta on another level, completely meta on another level. It's awesome. There are poems. There is multiple narrators that pick up and take over the text at different times, and also a kind of undermining, an undermining of the text itself by the text. Like the book itself becomes aware and is a living entity. The book itself is a thing, not just an object, not just an object. And what is it? You know, is it postmodern? No, we're past that, because what postmodern does is takes the modernist, in reference to modernist writing, and has a conversation, a relationship with that, with this mode, Virginia Woolf, stream of consciousness, singularity of time and place, that kind of thing. So what do I think is postmodern? Like, definitely, like, right in the pocket of postmodern. One of them I have not read yet, but I don't know. So I don't know what it is, but one person that has a lot to say about it and is doing some amazing stuff is Volman. Has been doing some amazing stuff with it. And there's like alternate histories, his Seven Dreams here, but then also David Foster Wallace, of course, was very, very aware of the literary landscape, and had a lot to say about modernism, postmodernism, and what it would take to take literature a step further. And there is these kind of things that come up with what is postmodernism and what does it mean and how do you do it. And it's these kind of things like mimicry of our world and how complex and crazy that it is, and poking fun at, kind of in a satire way, sure, but almost in like some kind of ironic, knowing way, where you just know that what it is and where we're at is completely absurd. And with a sober look and taking a sober look at it is completely absurd. But here we are. Okay, so what do you do? What do you do with it? And another one that I read over this past year that is completely, I think, like a quintessential postmodern work is Against the Day by Thomas Pynchon. And why? Well, because Pynchon in this is very aware of what he's doing, like he is in every book. I mean, Pynchon's a genius for sure. But in Against the Day, he uses all different genres to tell the story of a world, an alternate United States, an alternate Earth in the years leading up to World War One. That's when this takes place. The years leading up to World War One, and Pynchon loved writing period pieces. So the setting and the time period is just what it is. But he uses that in order, for him to explore genre on a level that I've never experienced before in one book. There's a Western, there's a noir, there's a sci-fi, there's a kind of Bildungsroman, kind of coming of age story, right? And they're so beautiful. They're so beautiful. But by the time you're done with it, and there's also like an erotica, a completely, smut off the chain. And so it is a love letter to what literature can do in a very self-aware way. And I think that that's the key, is that postmodernism, what it really does is does the things in such an aware and conscious way, takes them a step further, takes them further than they've ever gone. And that's it. What it means other than that, I mean, like what the work means other than that, does not need to be, explored in terms, in certain terminology. Because hopefully it is new. Hopefully it is something that can't be pinned down, right? And that brings me to what I love. Because my love for literature, love for reading, is always looking for something new. Something that's going to expand my mind, and something that's going to make me fall in love again, with what stories can do for us. And in terminology, there's nothing better than what I just said right there, because any one term, to try to define it, anybody can go, oh, well, I mean, I don't like that term, or that term is limited in some kind of way. Of course it's limited. It's one term. You know what I mean? Of course it's limited. All right? If you want to chalk it all up to one word or even a phrase, that's limiting. And that's what that is. So it's a conversation. It's an exploration. And what I love more than anything is experimental works. Works that are termed experimental. And why is because it is actually calling out the primacy of the imagination of the author and the imagination of the reader to experience it, is what it comes down to. Is that these things are unique or new, or trying to do something that hasn't been done before. And one of these authors that fit into this is Gilbert Sorrentino. There is an amazing a group of books by Sorrentino. One, Mulligan Stew, is probably the most noted. This is a trilogy that has Odd Number, Rose Theater, and Misterioso in one binding. So I was happy to find that. But Apparition of Starlight, and there's it is mind blowing stuff where he goes. Another that's completely mind blowing, I love more than more than most, is Italo Calvino. If on a Winter's Night a Traveler is one of the most unique works that I've ever read. It's very, it's still short. And so it doesn't need to be maximalist. It doesn't need to be a big work in order to be, postmodern or anything like that. It has for me personally, I love creativity, unbounded creativity, imagination, and that's what you get with Calvino all the time. But this book, if on a Winter's Night a Traveler, is probably one of the best examples. It is written in second person. You are the you do this, you do that. That's how this book is written. As a reader, you're doing this, you're doing that, and then also an exploration of storytelling that is almost unparalleled. It's beautiful. It's so fun, and it blows my mind. I love it. And last but definitely not least, last but maybe first on the level is Borges. Jorge Luis Borges was an unbridled imagination that could blow your mind and throw you out there into infinity and paradox with very, very few words. Was just so knowledgeable. And one thing that all of these writers and all of the things that I've said, everything has in common is an ongoing dialogue of art of authors and literature itself. It is an ongoing dialogue. It hasn't stopped. It's not going to stop. This is this is what humanity is doing as far as literature is concerned and writing and author reader relationship is concerned. So it is to be explored and to be loved and to be embraced and to be, see if you can flex. See if you can flex it a bit. And if you think that you can, read all these first and then try to do it, when it comes down to it, there's a lot that has been done. And everything is a response to things that have been done before. So I think I'll leave it right there. I hope that there's a lot of food for thought in this one, right? So thank you very much, BookTube. Catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.